We're going to go ahead and get started, and we just wanted to remind everyone that today's webinar is being recorded and it will be made available after today's session.
Good afternoon, everyone. This is Erin Frazier. I'm a policy associate here for workforce education at the State Board, and I'm pleased to be joined by Program Coordinator Jessica Porter, Program Assistant Dylan Jellick, and Contract Specialist Michelle Rockwell. As a policy associate, I'm tasked with responding to policy questions from stakeholders, especially the legislature, and will work to ensure our implementation efforts are in alignment with the intention of the legislation, meet the needs of students, and record necessary data to report on success, struggles, and unmet needs. You will have the support of several other State Board staff during the development of your Student Emergency Assistance Grant, otherwise known as SEAG program, proposals, and throughout the implementation. So let's meet them now.
Hi, I'm Jessica Porter, the coordinator for the SEAG program, and your main contact for program-related questions, which might include application content, program feedback, reports, allowable expenses, ideas, and resources.
Hi, I'm Michelle Rockwell, a contract specialist here at the State Board. I have many duties, but the one that you need to know in this context is that I will most likely be reviewing your application budget and budget narrative.
And hi, I'm Dylan Jellick. I'm a program coordinator with grants and contracts for SBCTC. I'm available to answer any questions you may have about working on and submitting your application in OGMS.
So let's go ahead and review our learning objectives for today's webinar. First, we'll look at just an overview of this funding opportunity. We'll look at where this funding is coming from and its intended purposes. We'll also look at the actual applications for funding. We will review how to access applications on the online grant management system, as well as program requirements, budget forms, eligible expenses, and other details that will help you know how to apply for the SEAG program funding and understand how applications will be evaluated. We'll also have a portion of today's webinar that's dedicated to questions and answers. So go ahead and please type your questions into the chat box as we go along, and we will attempt to address them at the end of today's presentation. We'd like to thank those of you who have already responded with your questions, which have helped inform the development of today's webinar. Unfortunately, we only have an hour to cover the information we've prepared for today's presentation, so if we run out of time before we can address all of your questions, we will follow up with you offline and update the Q&A content, which you can access from the SEAG funding opportunity webpage. We understand you'll likely have additional questions as you work on your proposals. We will remind you at the end of today's webinar how you can submit further questions and where you can find the Q&A updates throughout the application process. So now I'm going to go ahead and hand this back over to Erin to talk more about this funding opportunity.
Through the Second Substitute House Bill 1893, the state legislature established the Emergency Assistance Grant Program to provide community and technical college students monetary aid to assist them with unforeseen emergency situations that affect their ability to attend classes. Student emergency assistance grants, for example, can be used to assist students with paying for food, transportation, childcare, or other goods or services needed to continue attending classes. Emergency aid under this program is considered a grant, and students cannot be required to reimburse the college. This is a 2-year funding cycle, and funds will be allocated to the selected colleges. Funding awards will be based on the amount of resources available and the number of qualified applications approved for funding. Competitive applications must demonstrate need, which may include showing demographic data on student income levels, students experiencing homelessness or food insecurity, and other factors. Ensure that students' access to emergency aid funds will be as low barrier as possible. Allow flexibility in who may apply for funds and include students who may not necessarily meet the definition of needy student, but who may be experiencing emergency situations, and indicate how the community and technical college will prioritize the disbursement of emergency aid funds. The colleges selected may not require a student to fill out the free application for federal student aid to receive assistance, and students are required to submit requests in writing. The State Board will facilitate submission of the required annual reports to the legislature by December 1st of each year, and SEAG program colleges will comply with all reporting requirements to assist us in this effort. Now we're going to go back to Jessica to go over the timeline for this funding.
Let's review important dates regarding this funding opportunity. We were excited to release this funding opportunity early on September 13th and provide additional time for you to complete your applications. The Q&A will be available for additional questions through October 17th, and applications will be due by 11:55 p.m. on October 24th. On that date, SPCTC staff will only be available until 4 p.m. And a special note, this is 1 week after, so this application is due 1 week after the SSEH, or the Supporting Students Experiencing Homelessness applications are due, if you're considering applying for that opportunity as well. Selected colleges will be notified no later than November 15th and present their proposals on November 25th to the Legislative Executive Work First Poverty Reduction Oversight Task Force. This will be our first report to the legislature. Funds will be allocated for fiscal year 2020 on December 1st. Please consider the funding timeframe of December 1st through June 30th for the first fiscal year of your proposal. I'm going to now hand this back to Erin to discuss some of the guiding principles behind the SEAG program design.
In developing your program proposal, please consider the following principles that the review committee will be hoping to see integrated into your design. Trust students. Administering these grants to students will require your college to create safe spaces for students to ask for help. College faculty and staff will need to trust student requests for assistance without requiring documented proof beyond the stated need. Be timely. Financial emergencies can derail a student's future in a matter of days. A key component of this funding is to enable colleges to respond and address students' emergency needs more quickly and efficiently. Create a network of support. Creating a network of support for students in need is one of the most important hopes of the SEAG program. Colleges need a plan to support students beyond this financial assistance to help remedy underlying causes of need and to support student resiliency and persistence in college. Be free of bias and discrimination. SEAG program staff should demonstrate a commitment to diversity, equity, and inclusion, reduce stigma associated with asking for help, and ensure decisions are free from bias. Track outcomes and provide follow-up. Colleges will be required to report on a minimum set of data elements related to student and program information and should consider additional data collection elements that will inform program design and reporting to the legislature. Consideration should be given to the process of data collection in a way that maintains the low barrier intentions of this program. Leverage available resources. Colleges should leverage available college and community financial resources to most effectively impact student success. Enhance student access and support. Colleges should design placement of dedicated SEAG program staff in a way to ensure equitable access and enhance connection to other student supports and services. Opportunities to access the SEAG program should include options in addition to face-to-face and on-site options, including online, phone, and satellite campus access points. Now I'm going to hand this back to Jessica to go over the delivery model.
In addition to program design principles, we have also suggested several program delivery elements. The review committee will be evaluating your program design within the framework of the elements, so you will see each presented within the narrative questions in OGMS. You can think of these as steps within the SEAG program delivery process we want you to speak to in your program design. So number one, identifying students with financial emergency. Students will most likely approach a faculty member, academic advisor, or other staff when a crisis first occurs. Colleges must have a plan in place to create a student-centered, proactive front line to identify and refer students to the SEAG program. Colleges must also describe their outreach plans and ensure the stigma of requesting help is reduced. SEAG request process, number two. A key component of this funding is to enable colleges to respond and address students' emergency needs more quickly and efficiently. Colleges must strive for equitable and low barrier access to request processes. Number three, SEAG request review and decision processes. The review process must be transparent, identifying how decisions will be made and who will be involved, including award limits and ways for students to reapply. Decisions about requests must be made in a timely manner. Please include backup plans for when key personnel are unavailable. Number four, notification. Students must be notified of approval or denial with next steps and additional resources to address their needs. Number five, disbursement. Colleges must disperse grants within 4 business days or less. Examples of ways your college may choose to disperse funds include 1, a check written directly to the student, 2, a check written to a third-party vendor, or 3, a gift card, prepaid or a prepaid credit card. Special note, grants made under the SEAG program in response to students' written emergency assistance requests are not considered gifts. The State Board will work with colleges to ensure compliance with state regulations, including regulations that prohibit the gifting of state resources. Number 6, follow-up. Colleges must follow up with the student at least once within 10 days and then again within 45 days. Follow-up should include referral to additional resources and serve as an opportunity to check in to see if the emergency has been addressed. As you design your program proposals, please keep in mind the review committee will be evaluating how equitable and low barrier access will be for students, how quickly you will be able to connect students to the emergency funds they need, how effectively you will connect students in need to other supportive services and programs to address underlying needs. Okay, let's talk about what needs to be directly addressed in your application. You might hear some kind of similar notes, but we're addressing these things again because they are very important things that we want to see represented in your proposals and in your applications. So, number 1, we would like you to address demonstrated needs. So this means this is an opportunity for your college to showcase what you know about your students' needs, including demographic data about student income, number of students experiencing food insecurity or homelessness, number of students accessing the college's food pantry, and other specific information about your student population. Number 2, existing student assistance efforts. What is your college already doing to identify and address students' needs, including during times of crisis or emergency in the students' lives? What is your college's current capacity to address your students' needs? Number 3, plan of operation. And this is a really critical component, so we're going to really talk about some of the specific elements we're looking for as a review committee. So, plan of operation. Please note that Section 3 covers all elements of your plan of operation, and each question corresponds with the elements we have provided in the guidelines document. Please refer to the guidelines for recommendations as you develop your plan. The review committee is especially interested in how you address the following elements: Ensure equitable access to SEAG funds. Please don't make this a hidden resource. And make an emphasized effort to reduce stigma around students asking for help. Next, ensure access to funds is available at all times, including a backup plan for staff absences. Also, ensure multiple application options for students. Additionally, ensure a low barrier application process. Clearly identify people involved in decision-making processes and prioritization of funding. Ensure all students requesting supports are notified in a timely manner regardless of the decision. Ensure all students requesting or making requests are connected to other support programs and services. Ensure time between request and decision and disbursement is as quick as possible. Ensure follow-up with students to address needs beyond emergency assistance request. Number 4, we would like you to also address in your application capacity and leveraging resources. How will your college ensure collaboration internally across departments within your college and externally with additional community resources? Number 5, implementation timeline. We know it takes time to implement programs, and we also know that students have real needs that need to be addressed quickly. So please help us know what is a feasible time frame for your college to implement the proposed SEAG program, which elements can be implemented in the short term and which are more long-term plans. Number 6, evaluation plan. Identify the kinds of data you will use to help you evaluate your programs. We will share additional specifics about data and reporting requirements toward the end of this presentation. And 7, supporting documents. We will now talk about the supporting documents for your application, which will include assurances, the student request form, student follow-up survey, and budget. We're actually going to start by talking about the budget template and what we're looking for in each of the categories. So this funding opportunity has 3 main budget categories. For accounting, tracking, and reporting purposes, it's critical that things be budgeted on the correct budget lines and in the correct budget cells. First, the administration line is where you can budget up to 10% of the grant total for administrative expenses related to your program. These would include staff time for oversight of the SEAG program, administrative requirements for this funding opportunity, like completing the application materials and reports, monitoring budgets, supervision of staff or faculty, and associated expenses. And finally, the student budgets category should account for the bulk of your budget. After all, the intention behind this funding opportunity is to address emergencies that students are experiencing that may prevent them from remaining enrolled. And, finally, program supports are the costs associated with providing direct services to students related to this program, which may include case management and referrals. Okay, so let's next look at these supporting documents and uploading them into the system. So the 2019 to 21 SEAG program 2-year budget forms, we've included a budget template that we would like you to use. You can find this budget template in the grant info link in the upper right-hand corner of your application screen. You will also find the guidelines document in the grant info screen. Please note that the traditional budget matrix is not available in OGMS. You will click a checkbox in the Budget tab for completion, but fill out your budget in the provided Excel spreadsheet template. The next supporting document that we'd like to talk about is the SEAG request form, or the two documents that we'd like to talk about are the SEAG request form and the student follow-up survey. We've provided a sample SEAG request form in Appendix A in the guidelines, and the student follow-up survey, a sample, in Appendix C in the grant guidelines. Please feel free to use these as guides for developing your own forms, which you will attach as part of your application. You'll also need to complete and upload the standard assurances, the 2019-21 SEAG assurances. You will find the document for download in the Assurances tab. All attachments will need to be uploaded to the attachment section of the application in OGMS for us to consider your application complete. You'll upload the attachments in the Attachment tab, which is on the right side of the OGMS screen. You can't delete files once they've been uploaded. Don't worry, we'll simply consider the most recently uploaded file as the file you intended to upload, or you can email us to let us know which file you mean for us to use. So next we're going to talk about a little more about data and reporting requirements, and we're going to briefly touch on some of those attachments that we just spoke about. So in Appendix B of the SEAG program guidelines, we included details about what kinds of data selected colleges will be expected to gather. This data includes, number one, student information. So demographic information about your students utilizing your SEAG program. And number two, program information, data about how many students have submitted requests and the results of those requests. Selected colleges will be expected to submit monthly program reports by the 10th day of the following month and year-end summative reports on July 31st, 2020 and July 31st, 2021. I'm going to hand it over to Dylan to briefly go over the online grant management system.
Thanks, Jessica. So I'm going to go over some frequently asked questions about the online grant management system, or OGMS. It's located at ogms.sbctc.edu. So you'll apply for this funding in OGMS. If you don't have an account, you'll need to contact your college's OGMS security contact. They will create you an account. SBCTC staff cannot create OGMS accounts for college faculty and staff. The list of security contacts is linked in this slide, and we will be making the PowerPoint available after the presentation. If you already have an OGMS account, you still need to contact your security contact for access to the 2019-21 SEAG program application. Should you have questions about how to apply for the funding in OGMS or have other OGMS-related questions, please see the user manual under the How To tab in OGMS first. Links are available in the slide. Most frequently asked OGMS questions will be answered in the user manual. If your question is not addressed in the manual, start by contacting your organization's OGMS security contact. And if they can't help, contact me. My email is linked in the slide, or you can call me at 360-704-1021. All right, just a little bit about the Q&A process. So as you've already heard and such, you'll need to contact Jessica Porter with all questions related to this funding, and her email is linked in this slide. We have Q&A documents posted on the SBCTC webpage for this funding source. These documents, as noted before, will be updated every 48 hours until Thursday, October 17th, the week before applications are due. So we'll go ahead and go back to Jessica.
So thank you all for joining us for today's presentation about the Student Emergency Assistance Grants SEAG program funding opportunity. We would like to now, since we have time, we'd like to now kind of address some of those questions that you've been typing in the chat box. We might need to just take a moment to review those. So we're going to just take a second to see what you've written and then try to address them.
Okay, can you scroll back up?
Okay.
Hi everyone, this is Erin. we're gonna scroll up to the first question. And the question is, if it is not a gift, does that mean it is an award and thus financial aid would be notified and it would be counted as part of their need? For example, reducing their unmet need. So this is a space in which we are hopeful that you can bring a team together at your college to discuss the possible options around this. And we're really looking, we're kind of excited to see what kind of creativity you guys can develop around how you're going to disperse funds. There are several scenarios. Yes, you need to consider the impacts to financial aid and unmet need. There are other programs in which it is not counted towards unmet need, and I don't have a good example for you right now, but it is possibly using, for example, gas cards would not count towards unmet need. But we also, I want to throw out there is a idea for you guys to consider how disbursement impacts your ability to leverage these resources as well. So an example here is if you are able to track the disbursement of these funds in a way that you could then identify which students are receiving basic food, employment, and training at your colleges. Your college would then be able to bill for a 50% reimbursement, which then could be funds used to support other students. So we are hopeful that you will bring together a group of individuals at your college that have expertise within financial aid, student supports, other supportive services, and possibly even members from your community that are doing supportive services to help think about ideas in which you can disperse funds, both the methods and the trackings, and what are the impacts to your potential to leverage with other programs. The next question is, we understand that colleges, scrolling on me. We understand that colleges must be the applicant for SEAG. What role can college foundations play in the administration of the program and disbursement of funds? And so thank you for this question. We've had others ask this question, and there's some updates in the Q&A document as well, and we'll be providing an update there as well. You're correct, the legislation authorizes community and technical colleges to apply for the funds and to administer the program. There is potential for colleges to seek help in administering a program through a contract or MOU. However, we hope to see proposals committed to reviewing and modifying college processes, policies, and behaviors to meet the level of equitable and low barrier access this legislation intends. This is an opportunity for our colleges to do a review and, again, think about new ways to do this work to meet student needs. So proposals that integrate partnerships with foundations, for example, will be considered, but the intent really is for colleges to be changing the way they do business to meet student needs. The next question is, are there suggested maximums for student requests? No, there are not, and we intentionally left this open to colleges to decide. One aspect of this is that we are not sure how high of a request students may make for certain situations. We want to leave that up to the colleges to make criteria around this. It also is going to depend on how much funds you receive for this program. And so you'll want to take into consideration, and we will be looking in your applications to see what your prioritization of disbursement looks like. And if you are going to be putting a limit, I mean, it's not going to count against you, but do you have an idea if there's some limitations on how much a student can request, how often they can request? Are you going to fund students more than once? But we really intentionally left this open for you to design the program you felt met your student population's needs. The next question, in response to question 6A, double Roman numeral 2, do we need to include additional data elements other than those identified in the minimum requirements? So 6A, Roman number 2 says, identify any data elements you plan to include in your formative and summative evaluations in addition to the minimum requirements identified in Appendix B. Our intention with this is to ensure that as we are developing, implementing, and evaluating these programs, we have enough information to tell our story to stakeholders and to the legislature. So please consider what additional data elements you may be able to collect through the implementation of your program and the supports to your students so that we are able to make sure that we can tell the legislature what successes we've had, what challenges we continue to have, what student need is. We're assuming that this is still not going to be enough resources to meet all student needs. So what gaps still remain, and what other information do we need to include in this story so that in the future we are advocating for the resources we need to serve students better. The next question says, college P-cards, I was told, can be used to purchase gift cards. Do you have a suggestion on how to issue these? My recommendation is that if you are considering doing gift cards, gas cards, things like that, I don't think that it is important in how you do it right now, just a identification that you're considering that, and we can work with all colleges to share best practices that are already happening across our system. We have many colleges already utilizing gift cards, gas cards, et cetera, within student support programs. So we will be able to help give guidance around that once colleges are selected and ready to implement programs. The next question, could you restate the part about leveraging with BFED? So that statement was an example when you're considering your plan to disperse these funds to students, so the how you're going to disperse, how you're going to track disbursements. There may be ways that you disperse funds that are not recorded in a way that you can then connect that disbursement to the student. And in the BFED example, if you can't connect that disbursement to the student, you would not be able to then bill for a reimbursement within the BFED program for federal dollars. So that was just one scenario example. So just the broader statement is around bringing together all the stakeholders that work, that have a role in delivering supportive services through student support programs, your financial aid folks, other stakeholders that may have insight into all the opportunities, options, and impacts from disbursement decisions. So a follow-up question, if you do tie to the student, how would emergency funding be leverageable? These are state dollars. And so again, this is directly about the BFET example. For those of you that don't know, Basic Food Employment and Training is a federally funded program in which our college program providers connect students to resources that are available, that when they connect students to resources that are not federally funded, so state, community resources, we can then bill the federal government for 50% reimbursement of those funds. So these are state dollars. SEAG funds are state dollars, so it would be another non-federal resource that the Basic Food Employment and Training Program could leverage.
Okay. So if folks have questions that they, if you want to unmute and say your question out loud, or if you prefer to type it in the chat, go ahead and keep those questions coming if you have any. We're just gonna sit for a minute and let folks percolate on those questions if they have any.
Okay, we do have one more question that popped up. It says, will it be 4 business days or calendar days to disperse? And the intention is calendar days because when we are addressing student emergencies, the emergencies don't take a break for the weekend, or holidays. So we're really being intentional about how quickly can you say, you know, a student has a need, let's address it, and hopefully not let that crisis, you know, build upon crisis.
Mm-hmm. Well, and thank you all for your questions today. We will continue to field questions about the SEAG program funding opportunity through October 17th. Answers to those questions are available on the funding opportunity webpage through the Q&A document. And going forward, please feel free to contact me, Jessica Border, for program questions. That will be one way that we can address those questions and make sure that they are reviewable through the Q&A document. And then you can also contact Dylan for OGMS questions. Oh, you have the numbers available. Okay. Oh, and one more thing. I wanted to remind everyone that at 3 o'clock, we are also having a webinar that will be covering the Supporting Students Experiencing Homelessness pilot. So please join us for that webinar if you're available.
Great. Yeah. Thanks, everybody, for coming. Have a great rest of your day.